You know, I just have to talk about how faithful God is. And somebody asked me one day, why do you talk about your story? Why are you so open and to share about your story? And the only thing I could think to say was, I just think we shouldn't hide our scars. You know, we can't be afraid to let those things show, because somebody who hurts will see themselves in me, I hope. And I think there's truly healing in knowing you're not alone. So I want you to know you're not alone. Nobody up here is perfect, FYI. You guys, anybody want to claim perfection up here? Okay. We're not. We all work at our salvation every day with fear and trembling. We all walk through seasons of doubt, seasons of frustration. I've struggled with doubt and frustration for years. I grew up in the church. My father was a Baptist pastor. I went to a Baptist church growing up my whole life, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, sometimes Saturday for special events. I went to a Baptist college. I found out God wasn't Baptist when I started traveling on the road. It upset me. But I'm kidding. It didn't upset me. But what I did learn was how big God really was. He's a whole lot bigger than denomination. And what that means to me is we serve a big God, and I need a big God because I just do big, stupid things. I sang with a group called Avalon for 13 years, 12 and a half years. In the 12th year, I found out that I had heart disease. I have a genetic abnormality in my heart muscle, and in that 12th year, my marriage was falling apart too. My wife and I had been married for 5 years at that point. And my wife was working at Sony Music as an executive, and I was traveling full-time with Avalon. We were like two ships passing in the night. We never saw each other, had very little relationship, and things were just a mess. And I had doctors and I had counselors. I had all kinds of people say, Jody, you got to change your life. You got to come off. You got to do something, or you're going to lose everything. And so I quit Avalon, and 2 months later, my wife quit her job at Sony, and we came home and started putting broken pieces of a family back together. And thankfully, we've been married 20 years this year, so I'm very thankful for that. And thank you. And my wife is, she's amazing, and she's so hot. We were walking down the beach this week, and we're holding hands. And I mean, look at me. And my wife is hot and beautiful. And I'm like, everybody looks at us and thinks, wow, she married that dude for money. Which is sadly not true either, but she loves me. I don't know why. Anyway, so I didn't sing anywhere during my hiatus for 7 years. I just chose not to. I was just going through a season where I just didn't feel worthy. I just felt gross, And I used to tell God all the time, God, you use the perfect people. Let the perfect people sing. I'm going to sit this one out. I've disappointed you, and I don't deserve to be here. Anybody ever felt that way? And about 4 years into the hiatus, my wife got bit by a tick, and she got Lyme's disease. And she was the sickest I've ever seen anybody in my life. I've been around cancer patients, AIDS patients. I've seen a lot of sick people. And my wife at one point was so sick, every bone in her body and every joint in her body was swollen and hurt. And she couldn't get off the couch, and she would curl up in a ball in pain. And my daughter, who was 4 years old at the time, would pull at her nightgown and say, Mommy, play with me. And she'd say, I can't, baby. And for a year or so, we went to doctor after doctor after doctor. We had some doctors tell her she had lupus or she had MS. We had some doctors tell her she was crazy and needed intervention, which I wanted to come across the table at that doctor, but Jesus held me back. Everything. We spent every penny we had in savings. We finally ended up at a Christian doctor in Atlanta, Georgia, who diagnosed her with Lyme's and grabbed her hand and said, you're going to be okay. We're going to get through this together. And she is better. She is, technically she's Lyme's free. She still has some symptoms every now and then, but she is 1,000,000 times better, thank God. And we walked through that. I'm so glad. But Lyme's took its toll on her reproductive system, all the stuff that she had to take and different things. We were not able to have more children. And so we decided we would try to adopt. We live in Franklin, Tennessee. Everybody in Franklin has 2 of their own and 2 from China. So we just thought, why not? So we went through the process of filling out all the applications. We got approved. And I was surprised we got approved given my heart and my health, but we did. And 2 weeks after we got approved, the adoption agent called us and said, hey, I've got a mother in Memphis who's wanting to give up her baby girl. She's 3 months pregnant. Would you be interested? We're like, yeah. So we drove to Memphis. We met this mother. We filled out all the paperwork. We took over her medical expenses, and the deal was done. We even gave her a name, Caroline James McBrayer. We painted a nursery, the most god-awful color pink you've ever seen in your life. And I told them in the last service, I had pink in my hair for weeks. I could not get out. Caroline was born 3 months premature. She had severe birth defects, and she passed away within 24 hours of being born. And so we drove to Memphis and had to bury our new baby girl. Now listen, I don't pretend to have the market cornered on pain. There's a whole lot of pain represented in these seats. We have all walked through this stuff. But what I'm telling you is there was a series of events in my life that just stacked up to the point to where I felt like a punching bag. I felt like it was just bam, 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 boom. And Caroline was the 1-2 punch. It was the knockout punch for me. And I was out. Depression started to creep in. It started to get to the point where I could not make heads or tails of life. I didn't even understand what was going on around me. I would skip out on work, skip out on my family. Caroline passed away in September. Within 30 days of that, we couldn't even walk past the nursery anymore. We had to get away. So I took my wife and my daughter to the beach down in Florida. And while they slept at 3 o'clock in the morning, I walked out the door of this house and across the street to the ocean. And I walked in first about waist deep, a little lower. It was a calm, warm night in October. And I looked up at the sky full of stars and I said, you're not there. You're not there because you promised you would never put more on me than I could bear. And I'm dying down here. You're not paying attention. I can't do this anymore. And as I sat and I wept and I got deeper and deeper into the water to the point to where it was splashing up on my face and I couldn't tell if it was my tears or if it was the ocean that I was tasting. And I said, I don't want to live anymore. And I was going to walk all the way in and not come back out. I don't know how I got back in my bed the next morning. Like literally do not remember walking back to the house and getting in bed. I don't think I did. I think God put me back in bed. And I know some of you are like, I don't believe that. I mean this with all due respect. I don't care. I was there. All I know is I woke up the next morning and there was sand in the sheets. And I heard my wife and my daughter downstairs laughing, and I had not heard them laugh in months. And I called my best friend. I said, dude, I don't know what rock bottom looks like. Pretty sure I found it. I don't know what to do. And he prayed with me and we cried together. And then he put me in touch with this counselor who just rocked my world. Christian counselor, clinical psychologist. I told him that whole story. I said, am I crazy? He goes, probably. But he goes, Jody, what do you want me to do? What do you need? And I said, I tell you what I don't need, Charles. I don't need you quoting Jeremiah 29:11 to me. I get it. I know Jeremiah 29:11. I was born in church, raised in church. I know all the scriptures, most of them. I know that God has plans for me and they're to prosper me and not to harm me. I get it. But what I need right now is God to show up and do something for this broken heart because I'm dying. And he said, Jody, I know I can help you. I know God can help you, but nobody can help you if you stop breathing. You have to keep breathing. And together we'll get through this. So I want to say to you, my friends here at New Hope this morning, if you have breath left in your lungs, you have purpose, you got to keep breathing. You got to keep going. You hear me? If you hear me, say amen. Because God is not finished with you. It might feel like it. The heavens might be silent. You may have a million questions as to why in the world would you let this happen? But no mistakes are ever made when it comes to God. Nothing is a mistake and nothing is wasted. He loved you so much, he gave his own life for you. He hung on a cross and he died for you. He says he would sell the whole world to get you back. He'd trade all of creation just for you. He loves you. Don't give up on God because he hasn't given up on you. Did it ever cross your mind to just leave the cross behind? I came at much too high a price. And though you could have walked away, but instead you chose to stay. For me, you thought of me. You couldn't see a reason not to. Oh, me, yeah. In spite of me, I was the least that you should die for. Me. As the hammer struck the nails and your blood like raindrops fell, oh, your body shook with agony. And though the guilt and shame were mine, you poured out such grace divine. Oh, for me, you thought of me. You couldn't see a reason not to. Oh, me, in spite of me, 'cause I was the least that you should die for. Oh Lord, you died for me. Just thought of me. You couldn't see a reason not to. Oh, me, in spite of me, because I was the least one that you should die for. Thank you, Lord. You died for me.